All right, so thank you all for attending today. My name is Charles Costanzo, and this summer I'm a data fellow at the Bureau of Justice Statistics. So to give some background about BJS, BJS is the primary statistical agency of the U.S. Department of Justice, and it's one of the 13 principal federal statistical agencies. Here's BJS's mission, which can also be found on their website. BJS is perhaps best known for our National Crime Victimization Survey, but also studies topics like law enforcement, courts, and corrections. BJS has also developed strategic goals for the next 5 years. A lot of my work at BJS aligned closely with these goals, especially in producing official criminal justice statistics, data modernization efforts, and improving outreach. So turning to my work at BJS this summer, I worked in the Judicial Statistics Unit, where we study courts and the federal criminal justice system. So over my 10 weeks at BJS, I worked with the team on a total of 7 different data projects, including the Federal Justice Statistics Program, the National Pretrial Reporting Program, the Criminal Cases in State Courts Project, the Census of Public Defender Offices, and the National Survey of Prosecutors and Census of Prosecutor Offices. For these projects, I also had the opportunity to collaborate with various nonprofits and research organizations who contract with BJS to help administer these data collections. Some of these organizations included RTI International, the National Center for State Courts, the Urban Institute, and NORC at the University of Chicago. So turning to my projects, the first one that I'd like to highlight is the National Pretrial Reporting Program. This is a data collection on processing of people that are charged with felonies in state courts, focusing on pretrial release and detention. It collects data from a sample of the top 200 counties in the US, providing the first update from BJS on these data since 2007. So for this project, I helped to improve BJS's system for tracking data collection from these agencies by combining multiple tracking documents into one and adding the ability to easily navigate between states. My work helped reduce the time it was taking to manage this complicated data collection effort and will improve the efficiency of tracking as the project continues after I leave BJS. I also had the opportunity to assist with data collection outreach meetings with officials from state courts, jails, and pretrial service agencies from all across the country. So I got to sit down in meetings with officials from a total of 6 counties in 4 different states in the US, which are shown here. The dark blue color indicates 2 counties that I met with, and the light blue indicates 1 county. I also got to work on the Criminal Cases in State Courts project this summer. So this is the new collection that reports on felony and misdemeanor cases in state courts, updating the last BJS study, which was done in 2006. For CCSC, I reviewed statistical tables and the report, and also got to explore some of the data from the project to create some new tables. Finally, the main project that I worked on this summer was working with data from the Federal Justice Statistics Program to develop a short web report on immigration at the southwest border. But before diving into that, some of the background on FJSP. This is the data collection that reports on data from 6 federal justice agencies that are listed here. I mainly worked with data from the U.S. Marshals Service. The FJSP follows cases through the different processing stages, starting with arrest and covering the process all the way through to corrections. To make the FJSP data more accessible, the Federal Criminal Case Processing Statistics interactive web tool was developed. This tool allows people to examine various aspects about the federal criminal justice system with the FJSP data. The tool lets users query data on the persons that are processed in the federal system for 3 different case processing stages or on specific criminal statutes of the US Code. Users can filter by variables like year, age, and sex. They can also create data visualizations and explore these visualizations interactively. They can even download data and visualizations in a variety of different formats. So to better understand the tool, I'm going to do a quick demonstration of querying immigration arrests by US Customs and Border Protection in 2022. So once you initially navigate to the law enforcement page, you will first see the persons and investigations initiated cohort. But since we're looking for arrests, you will want to click the button to the right of that to see the persons arrested and booked. This will then show a grand total of all arrests from 1998 to 2022. We can next click Select a Variable to see the breakdown by different years. Since my query is focused on immigration specifically, I'll next navigate to the offense category dropdown and select Immigration Offenses. Finally, to see these offenses only for those arrested by U.S. Customs, I'll navigate to the Arresting Agency Detailed dropdown and click on Customs and Border Protection. This will give us the final numbers that we're looking for, which is that in 2022, the number of immigration arrests and bookings by U.S. Customs and Border Protection was just under 17,000. Now that we've explored the tool a little bit, I'll delve into how I leveraged the underlying FJSP data to develop my final Just the Stats report. To first give some background, the Just the Stats series was launched in 2022 as short downloadable web reports that are a part of BJS's modernization efforts. For my report, I decided to focus on the first stage at which individuals enter the criminal justice system, which is encounters with law enforcement and any resulting arrests. The report covers about a decade of immigration data and is the first in the Just the Stats series to cover immigration. Unfortunately, I can't share the results publicly yet as the report is under review. However, I'll go over a little bit about, in general, what the report covers. So I report on previously unreleased statistics on the number of federal criminal immigration arrests by Customs and Border Protection, as well as previously published data on encounters with U.S. Border Patrol. I broke encounters into the subcategories of apprehensions and Title 42 expulsions. These expulsions are new and began as a part of the COVID-19 response efforts in 2020. They ended in May of 2023. And finally, to explore more about who these people are, I further broke down encounters into demographic categories of unaccompanied children, family units, and single adults. To create and write my report, I used R Markdown, and some highlights from it include that it has interactive maps and data visualizations that, for example, would allow readers to hover over a specific region and then see the relevant region name and statistic. It also includes key findings and statistics that give the reader an overview of the most important results and trends. And finally, it has tables that include all the data needed to recreate these visualizations or even create new ones, and buttons below the table to download the data in different formats. Next steps for the report include the current review process and any revisions before being published directly on the BJS website. After I leave BJS, my supervisor will take over to carry the report through any remaining final steps. After it's published, I'll be able to present my findings with my supervisor at an academic conference. So over the summer, I got to learn a lot, and here are some takeaways that I have from my experience. So the first is that seemingly small changes can have a big impact. For NPRP, my task of combining multiple data collection tracking documents into just one is a relatively small change, but it had a big impact of reducing the time that it was taking to manage the project on the BJS side. Next, talking to real people is invaluable in informing government research and tools. So getting to speak with officials from state courts, jails, and pretrial service agencies from all around the country, I got to hear a lot about the difficulties that they face in providing different data elements that BJS requests. Often, Congress asks for BJS to report on specific numbers that can be extremely burdensome or even impossible for these agencies to provide given their current case management systems. Informing the government about what their requests actually entail for these agencies and how to better support them in collecting and reporting these data in the future is critical. And BJS wouldn't be able to do this without talking to real people in the field. And then finally, an evolving technological landscape, as I'm sure we're all aware of, presents challenges, but also opportunities. So some of the challenges that I noticed working at BJS revolved around data privacy and maintaining that, but also how to manage bigger and bigger data sets that are becoming more common with technological changes. However, there also are a bunch of exciting opportunities that come with these changes. So I think one of the most interesting ones that I noticed at BJS was that a lot of projects had to be canceled 10 or 20 years ago due to the high costs that are associated with combing through mounds and mounds of paper records. However, recently, a lot of courts and state agencies have transitioned to using electronic records, which are a lot cheaper to collect and analyze. So BJS has been able to revitalize a lot of these old projects which is really exciting. And a lot of these projects were ones that I got to work on. So the fact that a technological shift allows for more data reporting is really great for informing the public about what's going on in the criminal justice system. Overall, I'm really grateful to have been able to play a part in BJS's efforts to inform criminal justice policy with evidence-based statistics over my time at the agency. And then with that, that's all I have. Thank you very much. I've included my contact information, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you have. Thanks for the clapping emojis. Appreciate it.
Hey Charles, this is Ron. I wanted to say thanks for the presentation. It was great to hear about some of the work that the Bureau of Justice Statistics does and the stuff that you contributed there. I'd be curious to know, like, what were some of the challenges, either from your experience of doing those calls with the counties or from hearing from folks at the agency of working like a federal agency and trying to um, get data from multiple counties and kind of explain your purpose and just the challenges that come with that.
Yeah, I think a lot of the challenges that I noticed is that it really varies extremely widely depending on the agency in terms of what data they collect, who collects it. So what agency, for example, the criminal justice system at the local and state level is really complicated. So sometimes maybe the jails will collect one thing and then the courts will collect the same thing in a different county, but the jail doesn't. So I think there's a lot of difficulties with figuring out who to ask for in terms of what. But also a lot of agencies have trouble with, they don't keep track of certain things that we're asking for. So I think that a lot of the challenges revolve around accessing that. And then even if they do keep track of it, depending on what kind of system they have, it can be difficult for them to extract it, either because the system isn't set up for that, or they only have one or if that many IT people that are able to do that, and they're very busy. So I think that that also adds to that burden that they face.
Makes sense. Thanks for the answer.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for the question. Yeah, go ahead, Amanda.
Hi, thanks, Charles. Yeah, this is all really relevant because I'm based in Arizona. And I was wondering if this tool is live and if you could drop the link in the chat to it.
Yeah, so this tool is not live. The data collection process is ongoing right now. So I think it'll be going on for a few more months after I leave BJS, potentially more. But the report will be published after that. So there's no live tool that's associated with the NPRP stuff. And then for the Justice Stats report, that is also still under review. So that's not publicly available either. But hopefully that will be published by the end of the year, and you can find it on the BJS website, which I can link to the Justice Stats. I'll just stop sharing.
Great, thank you.
But there are a bunch of really interesting reports that BJS already has out there, so you can look for those if you're interested.
Hey, Charles, George Brown, we're with statistics. Question for you. So for your analysis, were you for the analysis on immigration offenses, did you have to go to one agency or multiple agencies, or how was this data analyzed, or where did it come from?
Yeah, so for the encounters data, I specifically went to US Customs and Border Protection, their website. They have this page that is involving nationwide encounters, so they can split up the apprehensions and expulsions by the different sector categories. And then also I went to the Department of Homeland Security's Office of Immigration Statistics has an annual yearbook they published. So I looked at 2021 and 2022 data to pull old statistics about the number of apprehensions each year, since those weren't included on the Customs and Border Protection website going back as far as 2012. Thanks for the question.
Thank you.
It looks like we have about 2 minutes left, so if anyone else has any other questions, I'm happy to answer.
Hi, Charles. This isn't about the project in particular, which seemed really cool, but I'm wondering what kind of drew you to the Bureau of Justice Statistics and like, yeah, how does this relate to your interests?
Yeah, that's a great question. Thanks, Catherine. So I just graduated from Ohio State, where I majored in political science and statistics. So I'm really interested in the intersection of data and statistics and also social science. And working somewhere like BJS is really a great fit for that because they're a statistical agency in the federal government, but they also cover the criminal justice system, which is something that I'm super interested in. And they also have a lot of impact with reporting on that. They're the primary agency that, for example, is responsible for reporting on crime statistics with the National Crime Victimization Survey. So if you see numbers that are like crime is up or down, BJS is probably the agency that reported that. So being able to be a part of that is something that I think is really valuable experience for me as I go into, I'll be pursuing graduate school at Penn State for statistics, where I hope to do research that's related to social science. So I think that having this hands-on experience about what goes into these federal statistics is really important for understanding that and developing my research in the future.
Congrats, that's awesome. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, it looks like we have about 10 seconds left, so I guess we can wrap up there. But thanks everyone for listening, and I hope you enjoy the other presentations.